What's up, everybody? Dr. Perry Bard here, and on behalf of Dr. Eric Kaplan and a very, very special guest here, we are really juiced and really excited and really pumped up, not just because both New York teams are in the playoffs and fighting in the World Series. How cool is that? That is historic. I mean, what an incredible thing to have both New York baseball team win and both New York football teams lose. What are the odds of that? All in rapid within 48 hours. I mean, what are the odds of that? But, listen, at the end of the day, nobody, and I mean nobody's having more fun than Dr. Kaplan, myself, and our team here, obviously. So a couple of obvious, simple things that I want to make you aware of. Obviously, this is a very popular subject, never done before, first time, where we coupled the education of the personal injury case with a spinal decompression case. So we're going to go around the horn a little bit, if you will, and we're going to talk about the parallels between spinal disc, between personal injury, between trauma, between the monetization of all that. And we'd love for you to take great notes. Shut off, if I'm you guys, shut off your phone, shut off, lock the door, eliminate all distractions, because we're going to, when we hit the ground, we hit it running. We're going to go into content. We're going to go into examples. We're going to show you things. And let's kick it off with our torch carrier. And it was so much fun because last week sold out. We lectured at Life University for the first time in years, and it was a packed house. I think they had like 1,700 people that registered. A mainstay of them actually came in and watched us lecture. And if you are Descendants of American doctors, special treat. It was a 2-hour. I told Dr. Kaplan it was my favorite lecture he ever did. And I got an actual chance to actually introduce him, which is actually on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, you can watch the 10-minute intro. But then if you're Descendants of America, tomorrow morning, you're going to get the 2-hour video. Just unedited, uncut, unfiltered. And then we added some additional things to it, some bonus materials to it. So countdown is on for that. We cannot wait to share that with you because we know so many of you wanted to come to that and missed out. It was the first time we did it, but let's kick it off. Dr. Kaplan, I'm so excited that you got your DCOA hat on, you got your DCOA shirt on. We are ready to roll. You are repping the brand, baby, and nobody's got more swag. So let's kick it off with you, my dear BFF.
It's an amazing thing, and I speak to so many doctors, and we're very blessed and privileged to have Dr. Thomas Dow on today, who's an icon in the state of New York, who understands personal injury, but. And we'll talk about it, Tom, and you'll talk about it a little later, how, not only are you big in the personal injury business, but now you moved into the disc business and you understand. Because, see, if I ask the average person, would you want a personal injury case or a Medicare case? Everyone, 99.9% of the people are going to say, I want a personal injury case. But I'm asking you many times, doctors, what's the difference? See, I spoke to one doctor today and he said, all I'm getting is Medicare leads. And I said, hold on. What do you mean you're getting Medicare leads? I said, you don't get Medicare leads, Tom. You don't get personal injury leads. You don't get major medical leads. What you get is people in pain. And now you have to understand what's your ability to recognize that and what's your ability to diagnose that and what's your ability to be an expert, meaning how do you get more PI patients? How do you get more patients? Is there a synergy there? Without a doubt. Example being, I'm reading a study, and if everybody can see this, I don't know. I'm seeing a big thing at Tom, but I'm looking at a study here, and it talks about averages, and it talks about how what lawyers want from doctors, okay, is the ability, meaning, let's take the average person. Chiropractors are on the streets begging for personal injury cases. Oh, doc, please send me more cases. Please send me more cases. But, as I said when I did my address at New York Chiropractic College, I said, if you are always chasing money, you're a slave. If you can teach money how to chase you, you become a master. And how do you become a master? By becoming the disc expert, meaning knowing the difference between a bulge and a herniation and explaining that to attorneys. So here's one of the largest law firms in the United States, and they did a study. And guess what they found? Okay, a bulging disc in the disc injury where the present material goes. But watch what they said. A bulging disc is not worth as much money as a herniated disc. Are you kidding me? Of course not. And they went on to, in the study, to talk about how the average settlement on a personal injury lawsuit is about $30,000 on a bulging disc. Yet that quadruples with a herniated disc. So what I'm saying to you doctors, if you want more cases, you have to be better. Okay, meaning, what does DC stand for? DC can stand for many things. Decompression chiropractor. You have to be able to cite research, as I can, from the American Journal of Pain Management. You have to be able to recite the Ironman study. You have to recite the Shealy study, the Burgundy study, the Kalady study, the Leslie study, the Wasserman study, the Pergolesi studies. You got to sit down and show the attorneys that you're the expert. You got to show them the Kirklady-Willis study that shows that spinal manipulation is good. Spinal manipulation is good. The American Journal of Medicine asked 84,000, okay, they asked, of surgeries fail annually. 80,000 surgery fails annually. Now, let me explain something to you. They went on in a report, of course, surgicals are worth more money than non-surgicals. But, patients are becoming wise. Patients realize, because they know that the outcome for surgery is about 60 to 70%. But yet, if they have to have the work redone, the average goes down to a 37% success rate. Tiger Woods, doctors, has just had a six-pack surgery, not one. And it's not like he couldn't afford the best surgeons. It's not like he was in an HMO or a PPO and they sent him to a doctor that wasn't qualified. But let me explain something to you, doctors. All these PI people that market themselves on how to become PI experts, let me tell you, bananas. I call shenanigans on all of them. I don't care how many letters you have after your name. You could be DC, ABC, QRS, TUV. They can take the worst orthopedic surgeon who graduated last in his class, orthopedic surgeon, and in their minds, he would have, in essence, initially, more credibility than you. He'd rather have an orthopedic surgeon understand than you. But how do you overcome that? By being a DC, a decompression chiropractor. By understanding that if you can understand decompression and you can understand the disc and you can provide them the studies that they need, and then you go on the stand and you can show them, here's the research. They have cases that have settled, bulges, $140,000. I don't know, Perry, if they can see this. They have cases, herniated disc, 413,000, 60,000 medium. And I'm saying, doctors, what we do and what we'll be doing even in New York, we're going to show you, be there or be square. We're going to show you how you document and how you understand the difference between a bulge and a herniation. How you have to have not only an MRI, but you have to have the right neuroradiologist to read the MRI. Meaning, listen, doctors are like golfers. We can handicap them. But what I want you to know, doctors, is we have to know that you have to sit down, and when the doctors talk to you, don't be somebody that's just asking for business. To me, people say, oh, it's a Medicare case. Well, doctors, I'm a Medicare case. I belong to a club with a lot of Medicare people that can buy and sell the average person. Medicare people have saved money their whole life. And let me tell you something, doctors. People come to you not because you're nice. People come to you because you're in pain. And if you can create that, and you can create that model, which I call more. What is more? More means more motivation. Write the word more down, doctors. Motivation, organization, results, effort, and energy. You want more, you got to give more. You want more, you got to give more. We're doing seminars in New York. We're doing a certification program in February, all things down the road. We did the national certification. Tom, I know, is nationally certified. Even his brother, who's not even in school yet, came to get certified. We make staffs get certified. According to Sal LaRusso, a national compliance expert, Okay. He says, hey, you got to be certified because otherwise you don't make it up as an expert. Meaning, what makes you an expert, doctor? Okay. You want to be the expert. I mean, think about this, doctors. Forget anything. Neck pain last year was $132 billion in treatment costs. Neck pain. Low back, 138.6 billion in treatment costs. A billion, doctors. Hip pain, 51 billion. Knee pain, 133 billion. And now you're worried about why aren't I getting new patients? Well, you know what, doctors? Maybe it's you because more also stands for are you marketing proper? Are you optimization and organized? Are you providing them with research and are you providing a clinic of excellence? You know, one of the reasons we have Tom here is because he provides excellence. But doctors have to know that that back pain is big business, and that we have a chance now, doctors. I mean, you talk about in the study, the Moore study, it talks about how whiplash injuries, and we talked to Dr. Shilley about this. A whiplash injury not only causes the loss of the normal cervical curve, it causes a discogenic injury. That's in the Shilley study. Now, if you can show an attorney, it's not just a sprain and a strain. You can't just say, oh, we have a loss of the normal cervical lordotic curve. You have to show them the bulge or the herniation and then show them a level of treatment afterwards. And we teach a program to our clients, which is exciting. What about doctors? Here's what I ask anyone that does personal injury. What percent of the people, when they settle the case, continue care? And I'm going to tell you, we did a study on this. It's very small. Why is that, doctors? Why do people, once they settle the case, they don't come back? Did they not trust you? Or did they not believe in you? Or did they not think that chiropractic was the answer? But what if I show you that we now have a program that we're going to unveil? We're going to talk about it in New York, Tom, with you on how, when they get the settlement, how we can create a retention program that will make them provide some of the money from the settlement to give them ongoing care. Because, see, doctors, many times when the attorney says, oh, that's all the care you can give. Hold on. We don't work for attorneys. And the bottom line is, if you can document disc injuries, guess what? Now, in New York is a great state for personal injury. You know, New York, you can run up a bill. States like Florida, average case settles $3,000 to $5,000, $8,000, under $10,000. Every state, what we have learned, Dr. Bard and I, is different. And you know what? What you guys are going to learn tonight, nobody was the king of personal injury more than Dr. Bard. Dr. Bard had 5 clinics, never paid for a patient, never had to do anything immoral, unethical, or illegal. But they came to him for 3 reasons. 1, he was the best marketer in the business. 2, he got great results. And 3, nothing will get an attorney more excited than when the patient goes back to the attorney and says, what a good job the doctor is doing. And what could be, when I used to meet with personal injury attorneys, I said on point blank, listen, let me tell you why you should refer them to me. Because what I'm going to do is not only get them better, okay, you know, but I can document, according to the AMA guidelines, 4th, 5th edition, I can show you how a disc injury gives them a permanent impairment. Now, watch this. I created a thing when we talked about maximum medical improvement, and they always want to know, what's the maximum medical improvement? Okay, and they want a percentage. But guess what? I created a confirmation called maximum medical degeneration, meaning when something can no longer, you like that one, right, Tom? When something can no longer get better, it can only get worse. So when someone reached maximum medical improvement, I would sit on a witness stand and say, hold on. Yes, they reached maximum medical improvement, but now we have a problem. What's that, Dr. Kaplan? Well, they have reached maximum medical degeneration. What we know is now, like a tire, if the front of a car went out of alignment and the tire's worn, you can't put the tread back in the tire, doctor. Can we give the patient relief? Yes. Can we get them to be on retention? Yes. And we have study after study that shows that. And you have to know how many visits and to do it properly. Meaning, we go through that. You have to know what the Yoakum study says, what the Shealy study says, what the Ramos and Martin study says, what the Beatty study says, what the Oglethorpe study says. You have to know what the Gerling study says, the Marcayo study, the Puglisi. And you have to be able to document these, show them to attorneys in beautiful color layouts. That's what doctors want, doctors. This is a time for you as a chiropractor to make a difference, but not as a salesman. Anybody knows me knows, don't be a salesman. Why will they come to you, doctors? Because DC stands for decompression chiropractor. You have to understand that you have to know the Kirkley-Willis, the spinal manipulation model. What about the Jarvik and Dio showing how surgery is not effective? It's not effective. So if they can't have surgery, doctors, why wouldn't they not want to come to you? And then why would orthopedists not want to work with you? We get referrals from orthopedic surgeons because people say, oh, I don't know if I want. No different when they come into your office, they say, I want to think about it. Well, they go to the orthopedic surgeons and say, I want to think about it. How many times do we talk about when people get in accidents, right? They never return. I mentioned that earlier. Why not? Are they better? Are they better? We know from the studies that I showed you earlier that not only the people, a lot of times they become unhappy because the verdict does not meet their expectation. And it will not meet their expectation if you are not a great expert. You want to compete with all the chiropractors down the block from you? Great. But you know what? How do you non-compete? By being better than the best. See, the fact that you have a DC degree, doctors, that's just the beginning. That just gives you the ability to be a better doctor, to be a better student, to know the studies, the American Journal of Pain Management. You have to understand the Leslie study, which shows over an 8-week period that healing takes time. There are so many things that you can do, doctors, that bring you, but you have to know, example, that disc is only 80%, 7% water. That you have to know that the innolators of the annulus go first. You have to know that the weakest structure is the person inflection. You have to know that 83% of all spinal injuries, watch this, doctors, happen in injuries of bending and standing when bent forward. But also, we now, based upon the study that I showed you, the Mayo study, shows that automobile accidents cause bulging and herniated discs. That's what makes you the expert doctor. That's why they will seek you. That's why, a personal injury person, you have to be the best. But let me explain something. Isn't it great, and Tom will talk a little bit. Maybe, Tom, I'll let, Perry jump in, or you can jump in. That's up to Perry. But wouldn't it be great, doctors, if every case that comes into your office, you can turn into, really, what does personal injury mean? If I bend over and hurt myself, is that a personal injury? It's not just an automobile accident. We know they did a study also, and they found the amazing thing, Tom, that people that have work comp, right, they stay out of work longer than the same person with an accident that doesn't have work comp, because work comp will pay ongoing in many states. So, hey, they can sit back, they can watch Montel Williams, they can watch all the shows on TV. I'm not ready to go back to work. In a personal injury case, they're not getting work comp benefits. But see, doctors, when you can show the attorneys and the work comp people, I can get you people back to work. I can make them feel better. I can get them back to work. I can get them to maximum medical improvement. And nature and time will take them to maximum medical degeneration. See, doctors, if you want to be the best, you got to sound like the best. You got to know that if you look at the Martin and Boxell study, you have to understand, they say in that study, all from MDs, I don't quote DC, that the spine has the ability to heal itself. And then when you say visits, we have to know how many visits do you need on a decompression case, and then what do? Then there's the chance for physical therapy, meaning there's a disc case, and then that's why you have to know the MRI, you have to know the difference between a bulge and herniation, you have to know the levels, you need to have the FDA 510K from the company that machine that you utilize. Because I will tell you this, if you don't know your machine backwards and forwards, a good attorney will cut you a new whatever it's called. You know what it's called. Why? He'll say, when did you get the machine? What training do you have? What are the contraindications from the manufacturer? What does the 510K say? How do I know this? Because people contact Perry and I. We meet with compliance people. I met with Ira Sherman, one of the biggest personal injury attorneys in DC, and I asked him, all right, let's play the little game. I'm on the stand. What questions he asked? At the last national certification, Dr. Sal Russo, who does much work with all the major insurance companies, we did a court stand. We will do that again next year. We did an expert witness and the questions that the attorneys are going to ask you. So we're going to prepare you. We're going to prepare you better so that you're going to understand that the Journal of the American Medical Association says $635 billion or more is spent. That we have to know that the Parker McGirt study, long study, says that post-operation back pain is not unusual. It's not unusual. The Baber-Erlich study from Johns Hopkins now shows that failed back surgery syndrome is of epidemic proportions. but you have to be able, doctors, to educate the attorneys and provide them with the research. Perry, you want to keep going? Or you want Tom to talk?
Oh, I got to tell you that I'm going to say something I've never said before. I hope you're sitting down for this one. But what you do so well is, in essence, really bring the past to the present that allows us to move to the future so well. So I'm going to put in the same sentence 2 words that you probably would have never heard ever come out of my mouth or anyone else's mouth. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't get a taste of it, I'm going to tell you how incredibly humble Dr. Kaplan is.
It depends who you talk to.
Now, you might say, wait a minute, humble? Wait, are we talking about the same person? But let me give you, as he says so well, the facts of life. And he gives me tremendous credit on the simple fact that I was able to build one of the largest personal injury practices in the country. One of my clinics actually was 100% personal injury. So I was very comfortable in that dynamic. But 37 years ago, when I actually started as an associate doctor with Dr. Kaplan, there was not one, but 2 things that jumped right out. 2 things. And that was this. Number 1, are you ready for this? Oh, baby. Are you ready for this? Well, I learned how every week attorneys would be knocking on his door to court him, to gain his favor, to be in his good graces. Every week. And I can name the attorneys. I can name them all. I remember them acutely and exactly, how they would literally line up like puppy dogs and wait to take him to lunch. And often he would invite me to lunch. And it was so good because it was a lot better lunch than I was eating at that time. Not that I was bringing my lunch in a little brown bag, but that's another story. But here's the real takeaway. You ready? What he was so incredible at, not good, not great, not amazing, but incredible, was his communication skills in the final narrative report. His final narrative report used verbiage and terminology and phrasing and analogies and clinical data and research and science and medical facts and MRI results, which at that time were just even getting started because of myelograms. That's how long ago it was. And then it progressed in a way that the attorney said, I've never seen a report like this. This is way beyond the MMI. This is way beyond your assessment in terms of utilizing the AMA guides to the evaluation of permanent impairment, regardless of what guide that is. And regardless of, because if you understand how to document, and that's where Dr. Dow, I'm so excited for you, Dr. Dow. So with your approval, with everyone's approval, raise your hand. I know we can't see you. New format, right? New format. I can see, I can imagine you raising your hand. I want to show you some slides that will be, I guess you would call like the table setter for Dr. Dow tonight, because what I'm about to show will speak the language. But forewarning, I'm going to give you a forewarning. I'm going to give you a disclaimer, if you will. What I'm about to share and what I'm about to show may make you a little uncomfortable. Now, why will it make you uncomfortable? Well, listen, the facts are the facts, and you'll see why. But I think there's merit in letting you or making you feel a little uncomfortable, because you got to be honest. You got to be brutally honest. You got to understand the methodology and the psychology and the psychology, if you will, of the personal injury patient and the merry-go-round that they get on. And so what I want everybody to do is this, 2 things. You ready? I want you to take out a pen and I want you to write this down. I'm going to give you 2 things right now. Number 1, I'm going to give you a website, www.ny, like New York, just the letters, NY, Cairo, event.com. I'm actually going to give you 3 things. The second thing I'm going to give you is a date. The date is Saturday, November 9th. It's less than 4 weeks away. And then the third thing I'm going to give you is the most important, because if you go to the website, there's no place to register. Why? Because you're going to have to call the toll-free number to be able to secure a seat if there are any left. I have a feeling by the time we're done with this was kind of like the final push to fill the remaining I think it's either 3 or 4 seats that are left, and then it's closed and it's done. And if you followed us for all these years, everything that we do sells out completely. They're with wait lists. So many of you know that, and so much more. So let me give you the phone number, 888-990-9660. And I'm going to jump right into the slides. But before I do, Dr. Kaplan, can you share? I want you to share something.
I just want to share one thing. I want people to know there's a difference between what we call the Chiro event and a seminar. When I did the last seminar at Trump last October, we had 390 doctors. So you say, why is this sold out? Because this will be done at Trump in New York City, but it's done in a private room, in a private setting, in a boardroom. This is something we only take 15 doctors that qualify. That's it. Otherwise, you have to wait for the next one. Now, why such a small number, Dr. Kaplan? And I'm going to tell you why. Because we roll up our sleeves, doctors, and we talk about epidurals, and we talk about money, and we talk about the 3 C's. What are the 3 C's? The capture, the conversion, and the close. And I will tell anybody that attends there in New York, I will give them those 3 videos. My gift, the capture, the conversion, the close. How to get new patients. But you know what? Getting them in the door is one thing. Whether you're doing Facebook or television, the conversion, doctors, that's your credibility. That's your reliability. That's what they want. So if you come, as Perry said, there's 3 seats left. Okay, that's the way it is. And I'll tell you what, the first caller has the better chance of getting in than the 5th caller. Why? Because there's only 3 seats. But we will be there. Tom Dow will be there. Okay, Perry and I will be there. There's a reason that the godfather of decompression, hold that right there, Perry. Norman Shealy says, thank you, Kaplan and Bard. Now watch what I'm going to show you, doctors. Here's a book. I don't know, Perry, can they see this book now?
100%. Yep.
So, doctors, let me explain to you something about this book. This book is 500 and, hold on, 800,
baby.
Hold on, 805 pages. Now, what is it? It's a definitive book on decompression. And guess what? People that become clients of ours, we show them how we can get their name in the book. You want to get in a PI? You meet with them and say, here's the definitive book. Here's the book that's in the libraries of all the schools on disc injuries, and I'm one of the contributing authors. You want to learn how to do that? You want to be a contributing author? You want to walk in with the big book? You come to New York and let me show you how to do it. That's what it is. You want respect? Let me tell you, DR to me stands for demand respect. If you can get respect, you will get referrals. That's the way it works, doctors. Not because you want PI business, because they want you. And Perry said they would line up for me. Why? Because I could go on and I'll cite you study after study. I can show you neuropathy, the Feinberg study, the Murphy study, the Starr study, the Barron study, the Berry study. But hold on. What about after action studies? That's the gel study. What does the gel study say? The gel study shows non-fact that after an accident, sometimes it takes up to 3 months before the patient starts feeling the pain. It might be a cough or a sneeze or a bending inflection that they feel the pain. So the gel study, when you can show this to attorneys, and he says, hold on, this doctor is smart. Not just a doctor. Hey, you got a degree, give yourself a pat on the back. But if you want to be one of the best, it begins in New York, and then it comes back to Florida. And I will tell you something. I will tell you when I talk to people, like I see, I have Dr. Kim Wong from the phone from Louisiana. I got the best in every state. Dr. Hester in New Mexico, 30,000 square feet office doctors. I got people with 12 decompression tables. I got people that only do decompression and personal injury. I have people that do it. And then you have someone who I consider one of the nicest, hardworking guys I've ever met that Perry's going to bring up in a little bit, which is Tom Dow, who told me how, gee, doc, I was all PI, And now I'm adding decompression because you know what's good, doc? They pay, and they pay in advance. And you don't have to take the attorney out. You don't have to take them to strip clubs. You don't have to buy them dinners. You don't have to promise them the next born will be named after you. They'll come to you because you're the best. They'll come to you because you're an expert. Show some slides, PB.
Very cool. Absolutely, 100%. So let me show, I want to show you a few things here. Let's go to work here. And, oh, by the way, I don't know if Dr. Kaplan mentioned this, but there is a university edition of the Ultimate Spinal Decompression book. It's been called the Bible of Non-Surgical Spinal Decompression. Everyone that's able to gain a seat at the New York Cairo event will be able to get the student version of that, the university version, which is 500 pages. It is our free gift to everybody that attends as well. So, you know, our goal is to empower you and give you tons of content, tools, information, so much more. But let's go over the facts of life in the PI and spinal decompression world. Because if you notice, basically the PI case and the spinal decompression case share one thing in common, and that is really the medical importance of the condition of the spinal disc. So as you know, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Connecticut General, Cigna, United, it doesn't make a difference. All of those right now have basically bottomed out, regardless of what state you're in. The last true vestige of a true insurance practice are doctors that do have a faction or a percentage of personal injury patients, be it State Farm, Geico, whether it's Safeco, whether it's Progressive, whether it's Farmers, whether on and on. I've dealt with, just like all of you, all of these companies, and there is what we call a sweet spot, which Dr. Dow is going to talk about, between having a percentage of your practice be a true cash model of PI, of spinal decompression, and the PI model as well. So why is PI a specialty? Well, PI is a specialty because, as I mentioned before, the PI patient is really unlike any other patient with regard to three simple things. Number one, the degree of trauma. Number two, the motivation. Number three, the level of compliance. So in regards to trauma, we know when there is a hyperflexion, hyperextension, otherwise known as an acceleration deceleration injury, we know that when the biomechanics of a traumatic insult are really put on paper, often it's the shearing effect to the disc. And that's why if you talk, I love when Dr. Kaplan talks about the shear, otherwise the sacral shear, because discs historically, which is what you learn through the trainings that we give, love absorption. They love, basically discs are springs, and they can basically contract, compress, and decompress all day long. Where they fail is when there's a shearing effect to the annular fibers, which tears the annulus, and when the annulus protrudes into the spinal canal, that's where you have problems. So whether it's a protrusion, a prolapse, a sequestered disc, it doesn't make a difference, because you know for a fact you've had patients that have had multiple or even singular disc bulges that are in such acute pain, and then you have patients that have had 2, 3, 4, 5 millimeter disc herniations in multiple areas, and their level of pain is not the same. So the degree of trauma, the causal relation between a day, date, and time, which you have to be able to prove in a court of law, and that's where your records are so important. So let's talk about the motivation. Motivation of the PI patient is obvious, and that is this. Anybody who hides behind it is not looking at the facts. Why? Well, I'll give you the facts. I just got back with Dr. Kaplan from Atlanta, Georgia. Now, if you go to Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, no different than any metropolis area, metropolitan city, where you'll have billboards that proclaim the following. Number one, ready? I hope you're sitting down for it. Might make you a little uncomfortable, but these are the facts of life. In a wreck, need a check. You've heard that before. And the reality is that we never know what's between the patient's ears. Our job, our singular job, our only job is to be the best doctor. The third is, I love when Dr. Kaplan, oh my gosh, if you ever heard him give a report of findings in PI, maybe he'll do it later. It takes about 10 seconds. Maybe he'll do it later in this Zoom meeting, but he's got a 10-second PI report of findings, which he might do. If I can coax him later, we'll come back to it later. But here's where it gets fun, interesting, and allows you, doctor, to be able to monetize your practice in the most professional, compliant, and the most exciting way. And that is this. And you got to ask yourself this question. What if you can get paid the same or better than a PI case, but not to have to deal with attorneys and insurance companies? What we do, what Dr. Kaplan and I do, what our team does better than anyone on the planet is, and this should really be our mission statement. You want to know what our mission statement is? I'll tell you what it is. We set doctors free. We, in essence, allow chiropractors to be able to get their mojo back, their confidence back, their matter-of-factness of knowing that this is an above-down, inside-out thing, that the power that made the body heals the body, that as a chiropractor, we're in the best position to treat patients non-surgically, not invasively. And if you look at our family of doctors, if you look at a typical disc case that often can be reimbursed based upon medical necessity, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 plus, based upon medical necessity, based upon what the MRI shows, and to be able to have a spinal decompression table to be able to help that patient potentially avoid back surgery. Some of you notice, some of you don't. I think this is something that, and I usually never share this, but the reality is for so many of you, you have the same exact story that I did. And the same story was that you had maybe more than one clinic. Maybe you were even involved in an automobile accident yourself. Wow, how crazy is that? So I actually had at one point 5 clinics, but as I mentioned before, one of them was exclusive for personal injury. So every single patient in that office was treated. It was a satellite office. I owned it for 3.5 years. I visited it 7 times in 3.5 years. So if you got your calculator out, that's twice a year. And it was, can I say the term, a cash cow? It was one of the most profitable practices. And at that time, I kept it for 3.5 years, and then I sold it to another PI doctor. My clinics were not, here was the difference. My clinics, and this is what I learned from Dr. Kaplan, and this is what I talked about before, were not dependent on attorneys. Quite the opposite. The attorneys became dependent on us. I'll show you how. If you want to hang out with us a little bit, make sure you come to the Chiro Event, ChiroEvent.com. Try to grab a seat if you can. We'll do a deep dive on some of this cool stuff. You'll have private meetings if you want. Oh, by the way, no contracts, no pressure, no obligation, nothing to sign, and we buy you lunch. Not bad. I became, as I mentioned, a personal injury patient, which flipped the script completely because it really showed me what a patient goes through. And you want to know what the first learning lesson was? I'll tell you what the first learning lesson was. Did you ever go in an MRI, doctors? Do you know how potentially claustrophobic an MRI is? Do you know that when I went, I had to bring a CD with me and they asked me if I wanted to be blindfolded? What CD? You're probably curious what I brought. I brought a CD of Steely Dan with me and thinking about walking, and I envisioned walking through Central Park for 30 minutes. And all I heard was this, ready? Ding, 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 ding. Then you feel a little heat, right? Ding, 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 as it went to every layer. It made me such a better doctor because I became not sympathetic, I became empathetic with my patients. The best personal injury clinics are both, as we say, built from within and without. In other words, have a faction or a percentage or a division for non-surgical spinal decompression and also have a division for personal injury. So treating PI patients is not for everybody. It really isn't. Why? Because you gotta like to talk to patients. You gotta like to talk to attorneys. And yes, once in a while, you might have to talk to an insurance company. I loved it. Why did I love it? Well, I learned it from Dr. Kaplan because we knew we were the quarterbacks of that patient's care. We knew we were the torch carrier for that patient. And we knew that the attorney and the circle, the orthopedic surgeon, the neurosurgeon, the internal medicine doctor, and even potentially the physical medicine specialist or the physiatrist or even the PT, they were all looking at us to champion that and quarterback. And there's a way to do that, which we'll talk about. As a chiropractor in the best position to treat a PI patient, if, and ask yourself these 5 questions, and then we're going to bring Dr. Dow on, but be brutally honest here. Number one, and this is where the rubber meets the road. Are you prepared to understand that this is a team approach? Meaning, anytime Dr. Kaplan and I talk to a chiropractor, we'll say, do you do PI? And they'll say yes. And then we'll say, well, what percentage of your practice is PI? And then they'll give us a percentage. And then we'll say, well, tell us about your network. And they'll say, well, no, it's me. I write the report, I give it to the attorney, and they go settle the case. That tells us that they're clueless. They're clueless. No disrespect, but they don't understand the nature of what the attorney, what the insurance companies want, because you have to champion this the right way. So if you're not prepared to do this as a team effort, there are other ways to monetize your practice, but PI may not be for you. Are you prepared to understand that your documentation must improve? In other words, that's why we love working with, case in point, Marty Kotler, the president of Target Code. As a matter of fact, I think they're on this right now, and they have a program that we actually give to our doctors that helps them become more compliant, better note takers, better able to document, really better able to make the case for their patient, but to do it in a most compliant way based upon UCR. UCR, usual, customary, and reasonable for your demographic area. So a lot of it has to do with the state. Dr. Kaplan mentioned that before. Every state's a little bit different. We could talk about that. But number 3, are you prepared to understand that you've got to communicate better? You have to be able, and this is where Dr. Kaplan's magic really came in, is because if you read his narrative reports, oh my God, it was like a Bible for how to communicate PI, and it was so good. And one of the things that I loved that he did, which he was so incredible at, was the future medicals. In other words, how he would position and frame the verbiage in the future medicals for the patient, because that's what the attorney often is basing the case on. Are you prepared to understand that it should not be about money? And Dr. Kaplan will say this, you'll often hear him say it, that pigs get fat, and you know the rest. Hogs get slaughtered. If you understand that you could do very well by making a little bit of a lot and not a lot of a little. In other words, understand that everybody is part of the pie, if you will, and there may be times where you might have to negotiate a bill with a PI attorney. We'll talk about that. Last but not least, are you prepared to understand that you are, without any shadow of a doubt, as a chiropractor, in the best position, especially if you have non-surgical spinal decompression. Now, there are insurance codes for that. Dr. Kaplan might even mention that, maybe on this with regards to the actual proper coding to use for all insurance cases if you have spinal decompression. Because remember this, rule number 1, you cannot have a dual fee schedule. In other words, if you pay cash, you're this fee, and if you pay insurance, you're that fee. Throw that out the window, because if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. The team approach is where it always is. The team approach, in essence, is really correlating between the EMC, the MRI center, coordinating with the orthopedic surgeon and or the neurosurgeon. And the 2 most important words in PI is this: clinical correlation. You as a doctor have to be able to clinically correlate the impairment rating from the orthopedic surgeon, the medical facts and findings. How many times does a patient go to a hospital? How many times are those PI benefits already gone before they even get to your office? If they had a CAT scan, if they had multiple MRIs, if the nature of the beast is this, because remember, how many times do you see a patient where they'll come in and they'll have a classic, and I mean a classic soft tissue injury, but often, as you know, a lot of times, what do they have? They also have a hard tissue injury. In other words, they fractured a bone. They have multiple fractures. They might have went through the windshield. So being able to discern, a hard tissue injury from a soft tissue injury, especially in the simple fact that most chiropractors understand what takes longer to heal? Oh, this is Dr. Kaplan's wheelhouse. You know, you break a bone, you set it, you cast it. You know how that works. Soft tissue injury, ligament damage, soft tissue injury to the discs. That's a whole nother story. And your ability to communicate that is really beholden to your knowledge base. And that's why I'm so excited for the first time ever to really have the incredible Dr. Thomas Dow. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Thomas Dow, he practices in New York, and he's really done an incredible job of positioning a PI stronghold of a practice. And he has multiple offices and a non-surgical spinal decompression practice. So Dr. Kaplan, would you be so kind to maybe Q&A a little bit with Dr. Dow? Because I know what you're thinking right now, because I can tell when I said coding, when I said documentation, I know there's so many directions you can go in, but we really have somebody here who's really kind of put it all together. Can you Q&A with Dr. Dow a little bit? Because I know what you're thinking.
You know, first of all, you meet a lot of people. I mean, we're very blessed. We're in 45 states now. We have over 245 clinics, and people say how and why. Why? Because listen, as Perry would always say, success leaves clues. And along the road to success, every now and then you meet a person like Thomas Dow. And Thomas Dow is not only a great doctor, he's a liver and a lover of life. And Tom's created a great personal injury network in New York, and he's made millions of dollars for other people. And yet he became a Distance America client, And Tom, I want you to talk about why you're successful in personal injury, but how Distance America has also brought another dimension to your practice. Go ahead, Thomas.
Are you muted? Turn up your volume.
Can you hear him?
Oh, no, I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
Hi, it's me. No, I don't.
Do you hear him?
Tom.
I don't hear him. Oh, wait, let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see.
Check it out.
Let me see. Ask to unmute. All right, you're unmuted. You have to unmute yourself.
It's up in the upper right-hand corner.
There you go. There you go. Go ahead. Turn it up, baby. Oh, we can't hear you.
I heard him before.
Did you? I don't hear him. Do you hear him?
No.
I don't hear him. Unmute because he's unmuted here.
But he has to do it on his screen.
Check your settings if you can.
Tom, you touch the screen and it's in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see a microphone. It should say mute or unmute. Can you unmute it? These are the glitches, Perry, that you go through.
I know. I'm so thankful that you and I got a chance to get unmuted and get our video camera on. It's the nature sometimes of these dynamics. Oh, here he is. Let's see. With the baseball jersey on.
Tommy, can you hear me?
That's great. How'd you do it? So you get the who? Tommy, can you hear me?
Who.
Where did that come from? Oh my gosh. I love that.
Can you hear
Tommy,
me yet?
can you hear me? Wow.
Hello?
Here he is. Tom, talk a little bit.
Good?
Beautiful.
We're getting there.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bard and Dr. Kaplan. You guys are the pioneers in this decompression industry, and I appreciate you guys having me on tonight. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time. It's my 40th birthday tonight, so my wife is downstairs, but I wanted to show my appreciation because you guys have helped me so much, and they're always there for me. So without further ado, I want to first introduce to the people that don't know me. I see a couple of Long Islanders here, Dr. Ackerman, Dr. Azab. And for you, those of you that don't know me, I work on Long Island, and I have 3 practices, all with spinal decompression equipment. And 95% of my patients are personal injury, work comp, no fault. And spinal decompression, I started implementing about 8 years ago. And I started with 1 table, and now I have 11 tables. and it's changed my whole practice. There are so the way I like to look at it with personal injury attorneys, when they refer to you, there's only one thing that they truly want is for you to take that and make them a lot of money with it. That's just a fact. They want money. That's why they're personal injury attorneys. So I reverse engineered the whole concept of that. And what I found was I work alongside with a lot of MRI companies. I refer to different companies like Zwanger Pasiri, Stand Up MRI. And as a chiropractor, I want one thing from my MRI companies. I want fast reports, and I want to be able to see the images immediately. As soon as they get the exam, I want to be able to pull it up on the portal, because the quicker that I could diagnose a disc herniation, the quicker that I could tell the patient that they might need spinal decompression. And that patient that's a personal injury patient is now going to turn into a spinal decompression patient, and it's just that easy. So when you talk about that concept, a lot of chiropractors on Long Island and even throughout the nationwide like to entertain attorneys. They take them out to steak dinners. They wine and dine them. They take them out for golf, and all that stuff works. But you're going to be a slave to that. As soon as you stop doing it, the referrals will automatically stop, and that's just how it works. And instead, if you build a practice like Dr. Kaplan said, where the people are going to come to you first because you have the best of the best, you have the best equipment, you have the best doctors, you have the best physical therapists. Those people that know other people that have been in accidents are going to say, "Oh, you guys got to check out my place. You got into an accident. These guys take care of you. They got spinal decompression for your discs. It's almost like a concierge service, okay? Because you have all these other modalities that people don't necessarily have in their practices because they don't want to spend the money. That's all it comes down to. The machines are very expensive, and if you don't spend the money on the machine, you're not going to have that equipment. So the hardest part is getting started, jumping in there and getting your first machine and getting linked up with these guys, Dr. Kaplan and Dr. Bard. And like I said, there's avenues where you can be successful in both personal injury and decompression. But you have to do it right. So
Birthday
Dr.
boy.
Kaplan, do you have certain questions for me that I can help?
Sure I do. First of all, happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday, my man. Congratulations. What a great thing. What a great family. What I like, one of the things we can talk about, and you and I just go back and forth a little bit. Tell them how being a member of Distance America has helped your PI practice and how it's added cash to your practice. Tell them what you've told me. Tell them why they should be a DCOA doctor.
So like I said, I've been with you since 2016. And the close is the hardest part. And the machine works, it's a great, benefit for the patients. But getting the patients to convert. If you don't get patients to convert, you're not going to have any success stories. That's just the bottom line. So getting that first patient to convert and you actually seeing with your own eyes what the power of these machines can do, and if they're done in a strategic manner, following the right protocols, I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing, and you're going to start to see things that you don't even, like for me, I was skeptical. My father, when he was alive, he was skeptical about that. He could, oh, it's the same as traction, we just put him on the F&D table, stretch him out a little bit, you're going to get the same results. And he's old school, and it took him a while. It took him case after case after case to see the results. And it flipped him. He became a Disc Centers of America himself. He got certified, did the whole thing. But again, when I had my first case, it was a case where I didn't think that this machine would be able to help the person. I honestly thought that the patient was going to end up in surgery with a neurosurgeon, getting their back operated on and things like that. And it just, after the follow-up MRI, it made all the hairs on my arm stand up, and I was like, holy mackerel, this is real. This is unbelievable, and this is something that can really accelerate me to the next level and separate me from the rest. So that's really
Tom, as Distance America made you a better doctor.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, Dr. Kaplan, is because I have now 11 chiropractors working for me. And one of the chiros, he's first year, he just got a recent certification last November, I believe. And he really doesn't have the lingo. He's okay, but he doesn't own it. And there's a difference between knowing how to communicate it and to give that report of findings, and then really knowing it, having like 8 to 10 years where it's a confidence thing. And the more you go to these disc events, the main event, the boot camps, you're going to pick up little tiny pieces along the way that you're going to say to yourself, holy mackerel, this is the patient's psychology. I would have totally thought it might be something else, but these are the things that they respond to. And when I started utilizing that in my practice, my conversions went through the roof. It's just,
you and I spoke about that, Tom, how all of a sudden you're closing cases. So
yeah,
by being at Distance America, Dr. Tom, would you think that they would close more cases and make more money?
100%. At least double the closing.
Double the closing rate. And
Yeah.
and if I have 3 seats open in New York, Tom, what would you tell the people about being there? Would that be a day of experience?
I mean, listen, it's $249. You're gonna make that back.
I'm going to raise the price after tonight, Tom.
You're gonna 10 time it after your first case.
What would you tell them, Tom, if they were saying, should I go? Should I not go? What would you tell them?
If they're on the fence about going, tell them that I'll pay for their ticket.
I mean, can you get a better endorsement than that? Listen, we have a deacon on this thing. We have,
and you're going to be there too. You're actually going to be there live in New York City with us. They'll get a chance to meet you, pick your brain, pull you to the side, have lunch with you, and so much more. One of the things that we love about you, not like, but love, was you were never, we knew this right away when we met you, you were never afraid to invest in yourself. In other words, you looked at this almost like a reverse engineer. You said, well, gee, because let's be very frank, you didn't roll out of bed and get 10 associates, 11 spinal decompression doctors, multiple offices, multi-million-dollar operation, positioned perfectly with PI and spinal decompression. That doesn't happen overnight. This is a layered, brick by brick by brick. So you went to one training here, one event there, one master class there, one certification here. You attended one Zoom meeting here. You layered this thing so genius. And, we always laugh and we joke, but we always say, it's just about one thing. If you just get one thing out of this, then you could take that one thing. You're kind of like, to me, like Saquon Barkley when he was with the Giants. Now, Saquon Barkley, I don't know if you know, was a running back. And what happened was with the Giants, sometimes like they give him the ball and he get a first down. And everybody go, wow, great job, great job. But now he went to the Eagles and now they give him the ball and he runs in the end zone like every time.
We hate him now.
But that's a little bit of a sore spot if you're a Giant fan. Listen, you want to hit Dr. Kaplan, right? Listen, he would say, it didn't make a difference. Whether you're a Yankee fan or a Met fan, whether you're a Giant fan or a Jet fan, what he asked for, are you cash or are you check? That's how it is in the business of healthcare. And the fun of it is surrounding yourself with like-minded entrepreneurial doctors. www.New York, NY, Cairo event, 888-990-9660. All in the heart of the Big Apple, our home, where it all started, coming home, because a lot of you don't know this. The Cairo event historically was always in Florida. This year we went to Las Vegas, sold out completely. We could have sold 3 rooms. Dr. Kaplan said, you know what? I had so much fun. Why don't we do this in Chicago? So I said, wow, what a great idea. Let's go to Chicago. Sold out. Some of you are actually on this right now. You were there. You know what I'm talking about. And Dr. Kaplan said, the triple crown, the crown jewel, the Belmont Stakes, if you will, of the crowning achievement for the year. And the reason he said that was he said to me these words. He said, if doctors are able to grab a seat, they will position themselves so geniusly for 2025 This will be literally a springboard of content, tools, information, and matter of fact, plug and play ideas that you can go back to your office on Monday morning and start to really explode it there. So I love it. I love it. It's just so much fun. And I know you're a birthday boy today, so I'm not going to keep you here that much longer.
You know, I want, you know,
Let me
Tom,
chime
you
in.
go enjoy your birthday, but I want to share something with the doctors. And you know what, Tom? I'm going to bring this to you in New York. I'm going to give this to you. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Anyone that's in New York, I will give it to them. And let me tell you what this is. I'm going to show you some recent settlement of cases throughout the United States. I'm going to show you what the case was. I'm going to read them quickly. I'm going to talk to you. I will give this to you in New York, never been given before. And I'll tell you, this is what you have to show the attorney. You know, when Devin Bard got bar mitzvah, I wrote on this thing, when you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. You see, if you can show an attorney how you can handle the case, if you can show an attorney how you can make them more money, if you could talk about the Gel study, the Shealy study, the Bergmeyer study, the Ironman study, if you can show that, the Boudreaux study, how it shows after 4 years later. But listen to this. 2024, January, Massachusetts, 140,000 settlement. 30-year-old man was hit by a delivery truck, ran a stop sign. He suffered soft tissue and disc bulges at L3, L4, L4, L5. The case settled for $145,000. The demand. Texas, 20,000 verdict. Clayton had C5, C6, annular disc bulge. These are bulges. January to New York, 25,000 settlement. A 14-year-old male suffered a bulging cervical disc. Maryland, $93,000 settlement. I can go on and on. Watch this. New York, 50,000. 20-year-old man was a passenger in a T-bone collision. He sustained L3, L4 bulges. New York, 1.3 million. You got to show this to the attorneys. You got to get them excited. You're going to be, you're going to be like McDonald's to them. They're going to be drooling for your hamburgers. A 31-year-old woman was rear-ended in a chain collision, suffered C3, C4, C4, C5, C6, 7 bulges. The woman also aggravated, now watch this, aggravated her pre-existing C5, C6 bulge, which became herniated. You see, this way, even as you're treating patients, they get an accident, it's no longer pre-existing condition. 1.3 million. California, 550,000. 29. I'm not giving you old people. Man was sidewiped by a garbage truck. Louisiana, Kim, for you, 128,000 verdict. Woman involved in a chain reaction. Georgia, 1 million verdict. I go on and on. I will provide this report. I will give it to everyone. Oh, here's the last one I'm going to give you. New York, $2 million settlement. A 26-year-old foreman fell from a ladder while at work. Here's your work comp. At the time, he was moving ceiling-mounted hangers that were supporting the duct. Van initially suffered laceration from portable grinder he was using. He suffered 3C4, C5, C6, L3, L4, L4, L5 disc herniations. Doctors, if you want to learn how to make more money, you got to show the attorneys how they can make more money. You want to be the best, show me that you're the best. Get your ass in a seat. I'm going to provide this report. I will bring it to New York. I will give it to anybody that's there. My gift, because of Tom Dow. Tom, that's my birthday gift to you. You're going to start showing this to the attorneys. I'm going to tell you, this is the Viagra. This is the Viagra of personal injury. You give this to them, you will get new patients. And for those people that don't know me, I'm going to root for the Yankees in 5 minutes. Go ahead, Perry, close it up.
For sure. Well,
Perry,
yeah,
Perry,
100%. You bet.
let me add on one thing. Let's get back to the personal injury just for one moment. I just want to open everyone's eyes on this. And we all know that after somebody goes through a whole protocol of spinal decompression, that we recommend the retainer plan, where we see them once a month, kind of maintains the disc. So every narrative that I've ever written for personal injury has a section that comments on future care for the patient. And generally speaking, if it's once every other week or twice a month at $50, $100 a visit, those attorneys will use that information to, if I may, calculate the expenses that the patient's going to have going forward throughout their lifetime, times X amount of years with their expectancy. And with spinal decompression, we can now add $200 to that future, because that's really going to allow the patient to have their disc saved and not degeneration, desiccated to the point where they have nerve damage. So when we add that in the narrative, that goes on top of the recommended chiro treatment as more future care that the patient's going to need. So the attorney can work that into the settlement.
You know, there's an
Well,
old
you know,
saying,
Tom-
I don't know if you heard it, that knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. And the greatest investment you could ever make is actually always in yourself. And as we mentioned, you know, the reality is whether you want to do PI or whether you want to do disc or whether you want to do disc and PI, when I say disc and PI, meaning spinal decompression, that's your call, doctor. But putting yourself in the right environment to get this content, this tools, these information, and to be able to create your own future, your own destiny, and to be free. In other words, to not be a dependent on insurance companies. You know, a lot of times when doctors come to the Chiro event, they'll sit with Dr. Kaplan, and these are, if you want to know like typical questions and how to get these questions answered, a lot of times when doctors come to the Chiro event, they'll say like, what table do I buy? Well, a lot of you know, we're not in the table business. We're in the education business. So we can educate on all the tables and teach you how to monetize and maximize what you already have. The difference between traction and decompression, how to get medical referrals, what attorneys want to hear exactly. We actually, if you bring these questions to us at the Chiro event, we will do our diligence and we will do our best to answer. What do you do if you have multiple herniations? Who are the best candidates for spinal decompression? What should I charge if I have a spinal decompression table? www.nychiroevent.com. 888-990-9660 is the phone number. Ask better questions. You're going to get better answers. And I want you doctors, if Dr. Kaplan and I can hope for anything, for any of you who hung out with us here, and that is simply this. If you ask yourself better questions, much like asking your patients better questions, you will get better answers. And the first question you should ask yourself is, are you doing everything possible to position yourself for success for the end of 2024 and 2025 and beyond? Are you doing everything you can to be the disc specialist? Or have you made an investment in your education, your training, your knowledge base to be able to understand basically the causal relation between a traumatic insult of how it affects spinal discs at multiple levels and how the physics on every disc is a little bit different? We wrote an 800-page book on this. We're giving you 500 pages of that book for free as our gift if you're able to attend the Chiro event in New York. First time, Big Apple. And I have a feeling after this, before we say goodbye, all the seats will be gone. 888-990-9660. We cannot thank you enough. Dr. Dow, I cannot wait to see you in less than 3 weeks. Dr. Kaplan, I cannot wait to talk to you tomorrow. And for everybody that took time out of their busy schedules, I hope, I wish, and I even pray for your success, because the truth is this. I don't know if you'll ever get a seat at the Chiro event. You may already be closed out. This may be the only time we actually really see each other. And if it is, we want you to win, because the way you win is when your patients win. When your patients understand that they went to the best doctor, the best disc specialist, the best spinal decompression specialist, the one that cares the most, because as we always said, they always want to know what? They want to know how much you care before what? They care how much you know. This is about relationships. It always has been. It always will be. www.nychiroevent.com. The clock is ticking. Let's go, New York, baby. Although if the Dodgers get in, I wouldn't be pissed off. We'll see you there. Thanks for hanging out with us.